Dimelo, mi gente! Que lo que? Why you looking at me like that?
Come on.
Nah. You need to sip a little more, babe.
I'm trying to. Let's go.
So today we got a special guest, my friends.
Very special.
All right, don't
We're gonna
play.
make this very quick.
No, we not. Anyway, so as you guys know, my special guest is my fiance Jay, and he's over here sipping. Tell him what you sipping on.
Saturday, Henny sidecar.
Okay.
Shout out Joel. Come on.
I'm sipping on my Virgin Coke. Okay. And it is a Valentine's Day weekend. Valentine is this Monday.
Super Bowl weekend for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you're right. See, this is why we together. This is why, cause
Super Bowl tomorrow.
Yeah, Super Bowl is tomorrow.
I ain't bet nothing.
Comment down below. Who's playing?
The Rams and the. See, so I ain't bet. I forgot already.
Damn.
I had too much to drink.
Who you going for?
Neither one.
No. All right.
I'm just gonna watch it.
All right, cool. So stay tuned for that. Comment down below. Let me know who you guys think is gonna win. Well, by the time this podcast goes up, it's probably gonna be after Super Bowl. So scratch that. All right. So today we have a topic that we've been planning on talking about for a little while now, and it is like, what is it, like our home buying process?
Just in general, buying, not our in particular, but I don't think no one cares how we bought a home. And if you do, hit her up, ask her, but just in general, the buying process.
Like the general things that people may or may not know about buying a house. So as you guys know, we recently bought a home back in June.
So actually, can't even say recently no more. It's about to be a year. Soon.
I feel like it's still recent for us, though. I feel like it's still new.
In what, 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months ago.
No, right.
Almost 7.
Right.
Almost 7 months.
6 months. Well,
we bought the house 6 months ago in June, so 7 months ago.
Beginning of June.
But we didn't move in until like a month after.
Yeah, in July.
Right. All right. So go ahead. I'm gonna leave it up to you, so you could talk a little bit. You can start it off.
So she asked me to help her with a podcast, or no, scratch that. She asked me to come on this podcast. No, I don't even remember how I got here.
You having too much to drink?
Yes, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here.
We persuade him, guys. We persuade him.
We thought it'd be a good idea to do a podcast well, she's been doing podcasts. I'm not really on that social media shit too much no more. But I do think it's good knowledge for younger people such as ourselves and other people to know that buying a house, the process isn't as hard as people make it seem.
It's not as difficult either. Difficult and hard is the same thing, you would say?
You dead ass.
It's just tedious. Like I said it before, it's just tedious.
It's tedious, but it's not hard. Growing up, like, in the hood, like, we both grew up, basically.
Shout outs to Brooklyn. Shout outs to the Boogie Down.
In Staten Island. Yeah.
That's still a part of the boroughs? No, I'm just joking.
Alright, now you go to Staten Island. But anyway.
Bing bong!
They make it seem like it's mad hard to get a crib, basically impossible to buy a house. Then once you actually get it, or you're in the process, you realize it's literally not that hard. Anyone from any type of background, doesn't matter who you are, let's start off by saying you can buy a house.
All right,
might not be the biggest house, might not always be the house you want, might not be the most luxurious house, might not be in the area, might not be a lot of things, but you can buy a house. You can get qualified for a house, you could get financial assistance for a house. There's mad loans. There's mad different government programs. There's so much stuff out there if you take the time to actually
research.
Yeah. you can do it. And then we could just I guess we could just go over the steps on that you need to know. I guess.
Yeah, we wrote down some things that like from what we remember that we went through. But before we go through that,
cheers.
Salud, 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 mi gente.
So I might be taking shots by mid video, so
he might be getting a little,
I'm letting y'all know now.
You know.
Saturday's my only day.
And it's Super Bowl weekend.
Word.
Anyways, before we get to like going down the list that we have, do you recommend, like, your personal opinion? Let's say somebody wants to buy a house, right? Would you recommend for somebody to buy a house that they may not necessarily want? Like, let's say somebody wants like a $400,000 house, but they are only getting approved for like $200,000. Would you recommend for them to still go through with it, or would you just suggest to like work up to that $400,000 range?
I think is based on every situation, and that's very broad, but that's literally it. It's based on the person. You know what I mean? I would, if it was me, I would buy the house.
And then upgrade later when you can?
It depends on my situation at the time. Am I going to just buy it? Is the house just for passive income? Is it going to be my actual home? Am I going to live in the house? I mean, it's so many different...
Let's say you would live in the house.
If I was going to live in the house, I would probably not buy the house. Me, personally.
Okay.
Because I'm very big on, I don't want to be paying for something I don't like. And I get it, like a house, you can put money back into it, but if you didn't get approved for the house
that you originally
got, that probably means you don't have the financial background or base or credit or whatever it is to actually upgrade that house anyway at that time. So you're going to be sitting in a house paying a mortgage for a house that you don't even like. And it doesn't matter what house, how new, how old, so at some point you're going to be putting money back in that house, whether it's good or bad, at some point. So I probably would not buy that house. So the answer would be no.
For me, I think it all depends on your situation. Like, if you're buying a house, and you're looking for this to be like your final destination, and you have a family, let's say, and the house is not like, it doesn't have as many rooms as you wish it did and stuff like that, I would say no. But if you're like single or it's just you and your partner, I would say go for it, because once the bank sees that you got approved for a home, it's going to be easier to get that second home. And then you can turn that first home into some sort of rental.
But, so that's not really true. It's not really, you will get approved again for another house. But it's actually more difficult for the second home. It's financially, because it depends on the situation. But let's say you got a government loan on that first home. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get that same loan because you already got one on the first loan. You have to wait. There's a lot of stipulations. You got to either wait 3 or 4 years or something like that if you have a FDA loan or whatever government type of loan.
And you won't be able to qualify for that first time homeowners.
That the down payment, if you're blessed,
might be different. I mean, they'll put you in a different situation depending on.
I mean, if you're blessed to have the 20% down payment based on whatever the house is, then great. Then you won't have any problems. But
you'll have equity, maybe, hopefully.
In what if you just bought the home?
I mean, we had instant equity. The value of the house will go up.
But yeah, keep on. Next.
All right, so I just wanted to see what his opinions would be, and if you guys have an opinion on that, like, would you buy a house that you don't necessarily?
So you got you're basically saying you got pre-approved.
You got pre-approved for a lesser price.
For a less amount than you thought you would.
Right.
So you were looking at houses
in the $400,000
for a certain amount, and then you got pre-approved for a lot less than that.
For a lot less than that, yeah. But would you still go forward with it?
But that goes basically to the top of our list here. So the first part of buying a house is knowing how much house you can afford. That starts before anything. You have to know your range. You got to know how much you can afford, how much you are basically going to get pre-approved for. Um, and you won't know that until, I don't know, you speak to a financial advisor, Google it. I don't really know how. We personally, I knew how much we were going to get approved for.
So, I just want to put a disclaimer out. We are not realtors. We are not like financial advisors or home advisors or anything like that. We're just giving you guys our own opinion based on experiences and research that we had to do with our own like journey. So we decided to share that with you. But by all means, we're not any form of professional in this
No.
criteria. We're just going by our own opinions.
But hit her up. Don't hit me up, because I don't know y'all like that.
Shut up. Not yet, at least. All right, so keep telling them about the pre-approval process.
All right, well, first and foremost, you have to know how much house you could afford. You need to know what your mortgage would be, basically. And that's still a part of the pre-approval part. So you kind of want to know, because the pre-approval isn't always based on your income. There's a lot of different things that play into that.
So name a couple of things so that they can have like somewhat of an idea.
I think it's based on the lender. So, like she said, we're not professionals. So it goes based on the lender too, and the person, and all the different stipulations that person brings to whatever type of house. And it also goes per house. So there's a lot of different type of house buying processes. Like for instance, we bought our house on a short sale. So with the short sale, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of do's and a lot of don'ts that you cannot do. That's a whole different.
That's a whole different thing. I think we're going off a little bit.
That's not off topic.
It's not off topic, but it's like,
you asked me a question, I'm answering the question.
Nah, but that's like above. I'm talking about like, okay, so for pre-approval, when somebody's trying to get pre-approved,
the pre-approve is based on your credit, right? So that's how much buying power you're gonna get. But I'm telling them basically that you could have a 700 credit score, but only make $30,000 a year.
Right.
And it's still possible, because your credit score is so high, for you to get pre-approved for a very good loan.
But they're also gonna take into consideration your income. So
yes,
just because you get approved for that,
but that's what I'm saying. And then it's vice versa. So let's say you make, $100,000 a year, but you only have a 650 credit score. What I mean? You still might get approved for a decent amount, but your interest rate obviously will be a little bit higher, potentially, blah blah blah. But that's how pre-approval works. So it's not always good credit score, you get approved for a lot of money, or you make a lot of money, you get approved for a lot for the loan. Right. But after that, obviously, or before that, you should probably know where you stand with your credit. There's nothing worse than doing a credit check and they like, yo, you at a 500.
Like you need to cut it.
Like hit us up next year. You're not really ready right now.
Sorry, try
But yeah,
again.
so pre-approval, first check your credit, know how much house you could buy, what you can afford. That's all pre-approval stuff.
So would you say, like, how can they get? What would you say? Do you think that they should get advice before getting approval? Like, try to see if they could like speak to somebody.
I think first you just like. It's 2022. Like, everything is online. Like, you type whatever question you possibly think may be the stupidest question in Google, and
there's no stupid question.
There's no stupid question, but like any question you think you shouldn't ask somebody because you feel it might be a stupid question, put it in Google. They have answers. Like, literally, I Googled everything you could ask her. Every single question I Googled, I did hours and hours and hours. I don't even know how many hours of research on every single topic when it came to buying this house.
And if you guys just feel like your situation is just complicated and it's not really like on Google or whatever the case is, don't hesitate to reach out to like a lender maybe not, just reach out to a lender, see what they got to tell you. Because I remember when we first started our journey, we reached out to a lender and they pretty much looked at our background and just, they was like telling us, all right, you got to bring this, that down, pay at least 30% off of this, that, and then let's reunite and see where you at in like 6 months and stuff like that.
Yeah, basically. And then next is the still on credit. So after you get the pre-approval, they still run your credit, whatever lender you go to. So like, let's say they run your credit for the pre-approval, but that is just to get you in the door for whatever type of house you're trying to buy, right? That's for you and your realtor to figure out at that point, right? Because the realtor basically, they don't even want to kind of show you the house until you get that pre-approval. That they know at that point that you're serious.
Unless you got our realtor, which is the GOAT, because she was working with us.
She was. But yeah, the credit. We'll get off credit after this, but credit after that, if you're getting a government loan, puts you in certain brackets to get those type of loans, if that makes sense. I don't know if I worded that correctly. So based on what type of government loan you are trying to get, your credit has to fit that particular criteria for those loans. So for instance, I think one of the most common loans is the FDA loan. So you have to be inside of a certain credit bracket. I don't remember what it is, for FDA, right?
And doesn't that change state to state?
It does change state to state. So you got to obviously check your state.
Yeah.
But you need to be, like I've read that you can have a 580 credit score and still technically get a FHA loan. I don't know how true that is. I don't know where in New York that ain't happening. I don't think. But basically, you fall into a bracket.
Yeah, I would still do the research on what it is that like what do you need to qualify for those type of things, because especially with the whole COVID situation, I know a lot of lenders and a lot of banks, their qualifications went up. Like they're expecting
every year,
more now.
Yeah, well, every year the qualifications change.
Yeah.
So every year is different. The home buying process is still the same, but how they treat the loans or how much funding those loans have varies year to year, right? And then lastly, as far as credit, obviously, which is probably I think the most important part of the credit is the percentage.
What do you mean?
The percent on how much you're going to be paying on your house.
Like the down payment?
No, the percent. Your APR, your percentage.
All right, get a little bit more into that.
So let's say you have a 650 credit score. So technically you could buy a house with a 650 credit score. It'd be a little difficult. You might have to jump through some hoops. I'm not sure what loan what government funding you'll fall into with the 650 credit score. I'm not sure. But I know your interest rate will be a little bit higher. Let me say that again. Your interest rate will be a little bit higher, right?
So the lower the credit, the higher.
Right, won't get that premium interest rate, right? So we got a really good interest rate, right? We personally had good credit, but that's us, right? Let's say you don't or shaky, you might not get that premium interest rate. So that's why you have to, not go with the first lender that offers you something.
Right, you want to shop around, see what you
definitely want to go through at least 3 to 4 lenders, right? Not saying that you should let each one
run your
credit. You might have to, swindle them and just shop around, poke at them and see, where you will fall as far as your interest rate. But that's important because when we get down to the bottom of the list, that plays in a role of how your mortgage rolls out, right? And your monthly statements, right? So we'll get into that later in the conversation, but that's important.
So tell them, because there's different loan types. I personally didn't know that there was different loan types. Off the top of your head, what?
Off the top of my head,
like name.
I don't remember
some
none
loans
of
out
them.
there. They're right there in your face.
Well, you got the obviously the military loans. I don't remember what it's called.
There's military loans, FHA loans, FDA loans, conventional loans.
I told her this and she wrote them all down.
Right,
but
like,
I can't
hello,
remember right now.
swindle. The answer's right in your face.
Listen, I'm 4 shots in.
Yo, bro, the answer's right in his face.
I thought we was doing this yesterday. we behind.
No, we not. Shut up.
I'm ahead on my drink, so.
You either behind or ahead. Pick one.
No, we behind on the video. I'm ahead on the drink. You heard? All right. What you saying? Right. Yeah.
I was just telling you to name some loans that are right in front of you. But
yeah, you said
did that.
Yo, Google them shits. Government loans for mortgages, literally.
And there's also non-government loans.
Which is the most, not the most common, but is a conventional loan, right? So a conventional loan is basically a standard loan where you go to a bank, right? You gotta remember, there's banks which are lenders, and then there's lenders which are
they're private lenders.
They're private lenders, right? So they're different. We didn't go through. We did go through a bank. My bad.
We went through a private lender.
Yeah, we did. Damn. Yo, Henny to go.
What are you drinking? Well, tell them how you made your drink.
So this is a Henny sidecar.
Okay.
So it has Henny VSOP, Grand Marnier, a splash of orange, splash of lemon with some ice and some salt around the brim.
That's not sugar.
It's sugar around the brim. Not sugar around the brim, but the sugar honestly is for y'all niggas. Like literally, I'll just be drinking Henny. I'm just doing this for the video.
Yeah, but he got sugar on his brim. Okay.
But nah. Damn, this shit tastes good.
Conventional loans also require a higher percentage for down payment as opposed to government loans, which they don't really require.
Oh, down payment, right. Boom. All right. So based on the loan that you do take, right, a conventional loan is your typical back in the day loan before these government loans exist. Don't quote me. I don't know when they started, but let's say they didn't exist, years ago, right? And you only had a conventional loan where you had to put 20% down of the total of whatever the house was, right? Which in some cases could be a lot of money. So they created these government loans so I don't want to say minorities, but more people. So low income. Not just low income, because.
So it'll be easier to afford your house.
Quick background story. I thought government loans. This is when I was ignorant and I didn't. Well, I'm kind of still ignorant, but.
Don't say that.
Before.
When you wasn't as knowledgeable.
Right. When I didn't know anything about buying a house, right, years ago, when I heard of government loans,
he thought of welfare.
I literally, keeping it 100, I literally didn't know. I didn't know anything about any government loans. I knew they exist. I knew about programs, but I always thought that you had to be broke or poor. And I was always broke and poor growing up. So I'm like, listen, when I buy my crib, it's just going to be no government shit. I'm good, right? Obviously, that now that I know, it has nothing to do. You could be a millionaire and still get, a government loan, right? So the loan is just to help you with the process of buying the house. And
unless you got the cash to fly to
that and the stability and longevity of the loan as well. So not just the down payment part, because that's literally the hump that most people can't get over, is that 20%, because most people that's making $40,000 don't have $60,000 to put down on the house, plus the closing fees, right? So they created these loans so people that work,
to afford their
they could actually afford to get into the house. But it's not always just about the down payment, because when you get into these loans, the loans make sure that you don't default on the loan. So that's why they do things called escrows, right? In your mortgage. So the escrow is basically, I'm not really going to get into it, but it's everything wrapped into one, right? So you got your taxes that are prepaid for the following year, right? So For instance, we bought our house in 2021. The day we bought the house, we paid for the taxes for the whole year 2021.
So you pay taxes up front.
Right. As we're paying our mortgage, right? They're escrowing. They have a separate account, which is called an escrow account, that stores the money that pays the taxes for the following year. So we're in 2022. We have mail over there that we already paid our 2022 taxes.
Yeah,
right?
So your taxes for the whole year you have to pay up front in the beginning
always
of
have
the
to
year,
pay,
or whenever it is that you close on the house. That has to be that's your first bill. We're gonna get to bills a little bit later,
but yeah, so that's called an escrow, right? Google it. It's for us. It works out good.
Shit, anything you could pay up front, fuck it.
Right. But if you had, let's say, a conventional loan, which would be like our next property, right? So our next property or the next property, if we get a conventional loan.
Your second property.
Oh, why you keep cutting me off?
I'm not cutting you off.
She like ad-libs, right? Like yes. I'm talking, she like property. Like, nigga, shut up. So a conventional loan, I could be wrong, but I'm not sure if they do that for you. I think the conventional loan, everything is very traditional, right? So you pay the 20% and then you pay your mortgage, right? And that's it. And at the end of the year, you have to have all your property tax or school tax or whatever tax that you didn't pay, you have to pay it by the end of the year, right? Yeah. I personally
just do your research on which
one. Just look it up. Like I don't know. The Henny's hitting a little harder now. Shout out to Henny.
Sponsor us. All right, so what's next?
We
ran through pre-approval. We ran through credit checks and stuff like that. So now your next step after you get your pre-approval. Now your pre-approval it's not because you get pre-approved and that's it. You buying a house. Like,
right.
It's just what the bank is considering you for the amount of the loan, right? So after you get that, you pull up to your realtor, right? And then you can start looking for houses, like open houses and stuff like that. Our realtor advised us to, although we were still in the pre-approval stages and fixing like certain little debts that we had and stuff like that, she was always telling us, like, no matter what, keep looking for houses. So she told us, get on Zillow or get on any realtor app, and just look for houses that way. So when you're actually ready to start jumping into looking at houses, like open houses or having a realtor take you, you kind of know what you want and what you don't want, what you're willing to settle for and stuff like that. And that was really like convenient for us. And like, that was like a really good tip for us. So just because you're not in the process of the pre-approval or you haven't spoken to somebody, you still want to be in the market, shopping around, seeing what's available, what area you want to get into and stuff like that, because different area brings different taxes and stuff like that. So you just want to...
You got to shop around, basically. So let's say, for instance, you like a house in a certain location. You could literally type in that address, obviously, that you already have it.
Or the zip code.
And then you could look up the taxes. Zillow also has all that information. It's all, I think it's all estimated from previous years, but you can see how much the taxes were for that particular property in the past years, which is important because that could be a killer. You know, sometimes you'll see a house that's a little bit cheaper, but the taxes are wild, right? And that goes from city to city, town to town. That could literally change by the zip code or where you are. So definitely look into that. Well, quick shout out too. If you need your credit fixed, hit her up. We know somebody, Vaughn. If you need a realtor, we got 2 realtors that we know of, right? 3 realtors.
If you're in the upstate area of New York.
Anywhere.
New York
right?
State.
So 2 of the realtors I know that we know are licensed in multiple states. So hit us up.
Our realtor is personally upstate New York.
Just she's in New York, basically, so she could help you out in any part of New York. What's next?
Oh, and you need a lawyer. We got a lawyer. If you're in the New York State.
Yeah,
area.
you definitely need a lawyer. Good thing you mentioned that, because particularly like our lawyer helped us out a lot.
Yes.
I won't go into details, but it's a lot of language that gets passed around when you're in the process of buying the house. So after you buy the house and you get pre-approved and you're going through underwriting, there's a lot of language from the underwriter to you, to your lawyer, that you, unless you, honestly, I don't think
unless you're knowledgeable.
Yeah, unless you know, and I feel like I was really knowledgeable because I was like obsessed with the shit for like 2 months. You gotta have a good lawyer to help you understand what's going on.
To help you interpret.
Yeah, that too, but like also help you, because sometimes you understand the language, but you don't get the process during underwriting. I'm talking about, which is a whole different thing. Underwriting, it's annoying. That's probably the worst part of the whole process, right? It's just a waiting game, an unknowing waiting game, right? You don't even know
what's going on.
In your mind, you're buying a house, and they're sending emails as if you didn't already get pre-approved. You didn't already pack your stuff to move out of the apartment. You know what I mean? You didn't visit the house 100 times and do inspections and all that. So during the underwriting, they treat it as if almost like you didn't get the house yet, right?
Because you didn't, in a way.
Well, you didn't get the house, but they treat it as if like you're not getting this house until we say you getting the house. Like,
yeah, like the ball is in their park 100%.
The ball is in their court. Right. We know what you mean.
Right. Y'all know what I mean. Y'all know what I mean.
She be wildin'.
People that are pre-approving you, those are the people that you're going through underwriting with.
No, not necessarily. So that's a good point. So you can technically get a pre-approved for one lender or bank, whatever, and not go with them, right? So let's say you get pre-approved from whatever, any bank, right? And then you pick the house, and then like 2 weeks down the line, you don't like their credit stipulations, right? You don't like what they're offering you. You don't technically have to, whoever you did the pre-approval with. You could go with a third-party lender, private lender, another bank, whatever it is. You don't have to stay with those people that you got the pre-approval with. You just need the pre-approval for the buying power. That won't change, basically. How about you take a break?
Why?
You're breathing mad hard.
I'm fucking pregnant.
I know, but nigga, like, damn.
All right, back to it. Where we at? Since he kind of dabbled a little bit into, so let's do this. So we spoke about pre-approvals. That's just checking your credit, your income, and all of that, seeing how much you can get pre-approved for. Then we spoke about, getting a... we spoke about different types of loans that they are and what they require. How you should do the research based on the state that you're in and see what category you will fall into or whatever the case is. And like obviously the area you want to look, you want to take all of that into consideration when it comes to buying a home. And then finding your realtor, looking for the type of house to see what's the best house for you, what's suitable for you. And then now you got pre-approved, you found the house, realtor, everybody's on the same page. Now we're in the closing process. So speak a little bit about the closing.
Well, before the closing, it's underwriting, right? Let's get back to underwriting. Couple things. So you found the house, you love the house. Then it's time to submit paperwork, right? So this is it's not the hard part, but it's very annoying. This is the tedious part that she was speaking of in the beginning of the video. So you have to submit everything, right?
Your life.
Bank statements, any bank that you currently have open, right? You have to talk about any debt, right? That's the biggest thing for especially if you are having especially if you are getting any type of government loan. The debt to income for those loans outside of the credit is crucial. That will deny you the loan like 100%. So I don't remember what it was. I gotta look it up. I should have been prepared, but I believe it was like um, 40, 40, 45 or something like that, 49%. So basically, if you have more debt than you bring home, um, technically, I mean, there's always ways around it, ways they can help you and stuff like that. But technically, you will not get the loan, right? So what they're gonna do is they have to play with the numbers, right? If it's two of you on a loan, it's better. If it's only one person on the loan, then you got to get with your lender. Maybe that government program isn't for you, but you got to go from there. But debt to income is crucial in the closing process because basically the way they look at it is if they're going to give you money, they want to make sure your current bills won't exceed what you could pay monthly, right? Did that make sense? So I'll say it again. They want to make sure that you can afford the fucking house, right? That
after your bills.
After your bills, right? So they want to make sure in 3 months, whoever the fuck you are watching this, if you could fucking pay your bills in 3 months, or they not trying to give you no money. That's it. That's all they care about. So if you got 4 car payments, right, and you only make 40,000, you're not getting it. Simple as that.
Car payments, or, credit cards, other loans like personal
loans, student loans. If you have any student loans, you gotta remember you're applying for a government. If you are applying for a government lending, right, through FHA or something like that, you either have to be current on your student loans. They have to be properly defaulted, or something in a status, some type of positive status, right? If you just ain't been paying them or haven't been paying them, ain't a word. If you just
ain't a word.
If you just haven't been paying them, then you're gonna figure something out. They're gonna tell you they're gonna hold the loan for you while you make 3 payments. Literally, that's what they're gonna tell you, right? Luckily for us, we didn't have any student loans. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm lying. I think I had to pay. Actually, this is how we know. I had $2,000 I had to pay, right? They was like, "Hey, you owe $2,000." I'm like $2,000. Like I paid that shit mad long ago, which I did. So I paid it. Long story short, but they wouldn't go through with the process of the loan until I paid that $2,000. I don't even remember why or where this $2,000 came from.
Because you wanted to go to a fancy dancy college. You should have stood in CUNY, baby.
I should have. But anyway, I had to pay the $2,000. It was nothing, right? So we paid it. But during the process, we didn't know that. Like, if someone would have made a video like this, like, yo, if you owe anything, especially for a government loan, I think if it was a conventional loan that we were getting, it wouldn't have been an issue, right? It's all tied in together, everything, right? So you want to make sure your debt is okay, right? You want to make sure that just because you have good credit, you want to make sure no one's reporting on your credit. That's important too. So you could have, let's say, a 700 credit score, but someone reported 3 months ago that you didn't make a payment or something like that. So you want to make sure that's clear. So you want to go through your credit history before you apply for whatever loan, because they're going to ask you. And they're not only going to ask you, they're going to make you write a letter on why they report it. They would literally ask you to write a letter, like an email, explaining why something got reported. I only know that because I asked them. So we didn't have to write a letter or anything like that.
If you owe any taxes
is another thing.
They need to be fully paid.
It's a government loan, right? So you got to make sure your taxes are. It doesn't have to be fully paid. It needs to be in a correct status. Right.
So like you have to have
payment plan or something like that.
You're actually paying the payment plans.
Yep. So
you're current and stuff.
So get all that stuff in order, and you kind of won't have no worries, right? So that's all the underwriting. So the underwriting is just someone that is literally deciding if you could afford the house. They say 95% of the times if you got the pre-approval, you will always get the house. I don't know why they say 95%, because I've heard of people not getting a loan.
That's that 5%.
Like the financing didn't go through, whatever for whatever reason. But that's what underwriting is. They just want to make sure you can afford the house, and that they're just not going to give some dickhead X amount of money to buy a house and you can't pay it back, right? You can't afford the loan. And that's it. She did the rundown, right? You hit up a lawyer. You give the pre-approval to the lawyer. You find a house. You make sure you.
A realtor, you mean?
Yes, I'm sorry.
A realtor.
See, I gotta refill.
So you got your pre-approval. You get a realtor. You start house shopping.
You find a house that you like.
And now you're starting your.
You submit all your paperwork that we just went over, all financial statements, anything that you owe. Personally, we gave everything, right? We just was like, yo, here's everything. Anything that you owe, just give it to them, because they're gonna find it out anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's easier just to do it that one time and make a file, right? So I made a file. I was really good with the paperwork. So any paperwork that I knew they would need before even giving it to them, I already had it, right? I made a PDF file. I think it was like, I don't know what, it was like 25 pages with both of our financial incomes and bank statements, everything. So we gave them one shot, and it was still a waiting game, but
and you still have to submit paperwork.
We had to submit
the process.
So we still had to submit current like pay stubs. That won't change. Like obviously you don't have that till you get paid. But what we didn't have to do was keep going back, right? So they asked for multiple paperwork multiple times, right? The same thing, even though I sent it 4 times. But for us, it was easy because I already had it saved, right? So they were like, hey, do you have a...
That's like the tedious process.
Right, so like they would ask...
make sure.
Right, they asked for the same thing multiple times. But just have it saved, just create a file. It was light after... my friend told me, like, someone
we have friends
that bought a house.
That are homeowners, obviously. And that's another thing. If you have friends who are homeowners, link up with them and talk about their process and stuff like that. Not everybody's process or experience is the same, but at least you want to know. So because we linked up with our friend, he told us like what he did to start off his process, and we kind of
and that was
followed.
No, we did follow. I definitely copied him.
Definitely.
But shout out Charlie. But like that was crucial because, I work 15-hour days, so like I don't got time to, and it's a bank that you're dealing with, right? So I didn't have time to. They asked for a certain paperwork. I gotta wait till I get home to send it to them.
Search for it.
Because let's say I don't get home to 6-7 o'clock at night. I send it to them. It takes them forever. No matter who you're dealing with at a bank, everything, one email takes a day, right?
Yes.
Just to get through. So a day turns into a week for one paperwork that they're requesting, right?
Because they too busy calling people to get their money.
Like, I don't know what they do, but like everything took mad long. So they would ask for something, and I would already have it on deck. Everything. Every little thing. Even when we got paid, like I just, I got the pay stub, I saved it. I didn't send it to them until they asked. When they asked, I had it on deck within seconds, right? That was underwriting.
But so underwriting typically lasts like 3 months, typically on average. Everything is
60 days. It's supposed to last 60 days.
Well, it could last 60 to 90 days, depending on what the lender thinks. Because we had a 90-day closing.
I don't remember.
That was 3 months. But every time like a certain period passed, like every time 30 days passed, we had to submit the same paperwork as he said earlier. But these same paperworks were updated paperwork. So like bank statements, every single bank statements that you have to submit every single month. Your pay stub, you have to submit every single month. What else?
I just said all that.
I know, but you was talking about other stuff too, so I'm just reiterating.
So that's underwriting, and then they hit you with clear to close, right? That's the words that you want to hear. That means that you are done with any paperwork and you basically got the house. All right, we finished up talking about the underwriting. So she ran down the couple steps that that get you through the buying process all the way up to underwriting. And now let's talk about some things.
The fun stuff.
Some things that people don't tell you about when you buy a house, though, right? So let's start with the good stuff. One, you own a house, right? You could do as you please for the most part.
You own property.
You own you could do what you want for the most part, unless you are in like some type of homeowners association with. But things that people don't tell you is like, for me, my biggest thing was she did a poll on Instagram to see what you asked them. Things that people don't tell you about.
People don't tell you the things that people don't tell you about buying a house or being a homeowner.
Right. So for me, the biggest thing, the little things add up way more than I thought they would. Right. The little things like the grass, right? Mowing the grass. So I was lazy when we bought the house. It was the middle of the summer. I didn't want to spend the money on a lawnmower, right? We got a little over an acre. So I'm like, I'm just gonna pay somebody. Like, it's only X amount of dollars. It's light. That's nothing. Then 5 months go down. I'm like, I'm tired of paying this person, right?
The grass grows really fast.
Right. This summer, like the last summer we had in New York, like it rained every day. Literally, you can look it up in July, right? Every single day. So at the end of the week, each week, the grass was wild. It was like it needed a haircut every week.
A haircut.
Like, unlike me, like I need a haircut, right? Anyway, that's a different topic. But yeah, like cutting the grass, I had to pay the lawn mowing crew, whoever they were. I never even met them. That's another thing. I don't even know how they look.
Because they just pulled up.
I just signed some contract online. They did the job, but I never met them. What else? The water bill, right? So after we closed on the house, we got hit with a water bill.
A water bill instantly. Like that was like, I think they gave us the water bill before we signed the closing.
Before we closed, so they told us about it, but I didn't make it any better. We have a sprinkler system in our house, and I ran the sprinkler system because it's like the grass at the time had little patches.
He was bougie.
Right. I didn't know. New homeowner shit. So I paid, I turned on I paid a company to come out to clean out my sprinkler system, and we ran the sprinkler system for basically since I bought the house up until it got cold. Right? So mad months, like just stupid. Every single day I had them scheduled to come on. Right? So we got the first water bill. And we like, yo.
Mind you, the neighbor was like, hey, you might want to turn the sprinkler system down.
He was like, and I'm like,
do it every week.
I'm like, yo, that's nothing. Like, water bill.
He was the baller, shot caller.
I was like, right? I got the bill. I was like,
till that mail came through.
Next summer gonna be different, right?
No.
What else?
But with the whole water situation, we don't really technically close the water when we're doing dishes. Like, that's homeowner shit, because that also runs your water bill up.
I don't know what the fuck she's talking about right now. But
when you're washing dishes, do you close the...
Nigga, you're washing dishes. What are you talking about?
People close the sink when they're washing dishes. They don't let the water run. You never heard of that?
No.
You ignorant ass.
She wild. And I literally sometimes never know what she's talking about. Right?
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
This is why.
If you close the...
First of all, you mean turn the water off. You don't close the water.
It's the same shit.
Close the water?
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
You closing the water. You not letting it run. You know what I mean.
Anyway, so what else? All right, the house came with solar panels. That's a bill, right?
Solar panel is optional.
Right. So, all right, we got solar panels. That's another little thing that adds up. We have to pay for that. It wasn't, for us, it wasn't optional. It came with the house. It was part of the agreement of, obviously, the contract we signed at the beginning of the of the loan. They're very beneficial for us, but at the end of the day, it's still another bill, right? So once again, the little things add up. So the little things become a big bill. Is my whole point.
All the little bills together. Yep.
The trash. Another one. Another. It's not a big bill, but it's a part of the little stuff. You gotta pay for trash.
So I got a question. So is the trash something? Let's say we was in a more like city area, right? Because we're in a real.
You still have to pay.
In a rural area.
Right, but you would still have to pay.
You still have to pay to. You have to pay to get your trash picked up. I don't know. You don't have to do that if you're renting, right?
No, that's right. That's my point.
That's crazy.
What else? Security system. So we got, cameras and all that stuff. Like when you think of that stuff, like you guys probably got rings and all that stuff, but
it's a subscription.
It's right, but you don't like that might just be a bill. But when you have multiple little things, I'm telling you that shit adds up. Yes. Right. So we got that. What else? And then like little stuff around the house, getting stuff fixed. For us, I got day one moving in. Literally day one, hot water tank went. Like we were literally the movers was here. Like this to give you some perspective of what was going on. The movers were still here. Like they were in and out of the apartment, in and out the house. So we didn't even technically move in yet. I had a plumber come in, look at the water tank because it went bad. We had no hot water. Didn't even sleep here yet, right?
Mind you, they tell you, yo, you want to check every single little thing during inspection. We did
everything.
Like we inspected our house like 3 times. With private inspectors, we hired our own inspectors, which is another thing that we should get into a little bit. And it was good. Like everybody told us the same thing. Mind you, nobody's on nobody else's side. Like they're just not lying to us to get us to like just pursue the house or whatever. It was people that we hired on our own. And the shit was good. It was all good until we moved in. It was like,
well, we didn't even move in yet. It was literally
the day we were moving in.
The day we was moving in, right? And not knowing, like we didn't have any contacts at the time, any plumbing contacts or anything like that. So we did what normal people would do. Well,
call a company.
We Googled it, right? First number that came up, or first 3 numbers that came up, that's what I called. That's what I used. And when I tell you, son was about to get beat the fuck up, Danny had to tell him to leave, right? So he came in, gave me a price. It's a long story. She did a poll, like we said, on Instagram, and I know one of my friends commented, and they said the roof. So I'm not even gonna get into that. Definitely check that.
Check the roof. The roof is I feel like the roof is like a deal breaker.
Yeah, like your roof. Like don't matter how
hire
nice that
somebody.
House is. Yeah, you gotta check that. We have friends that had that issue like years ago, and fortunately for them, they were like financially okay to fix it. But that could ruin people because you're looking at $20,000 and it's not $20,000 like let me get a payment plan. They want their bread.
So that's why when it comes to that, you always want to maintain good credit, even though you got the house, you already moved in, ain't nobody really checking you, because you still want to be able. I mean, you still want to have a nice savings, but you also want to have the credit in case the roof does have like something happens with the roof or something like big like plumbing goes down, and maybe you do need to get like a personal loan or a certain type of loan to fix those things, because sometimes those fixes they could run you like $20,000-$30,000, and then I mean if y'all sitting on $20,000-$30,000 ain't meant to you, but if I had $20,000-$30,000 in cash, I still want to use my credit.
Probably, definitely. All right, what else?
So somebody said you need to change air filters and smoke detectors every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's obviously safety. The air filters is what I learned. Obviously, is to preserve whatever units you do have, right? So we have central AC. Obviously, you got to change out the filters for that because it all is it's airflow. So any blockage is gonna back up. Obviously, all the ducts and um, obviously get dirty, right? So
Right. So we had our friend. She said every fucking thing.
right, everything, which is hard because if you don't know shit, you can't check shit, right?
Right. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So
But she's right. Because
everything. It's everything.
Everything, every day.
Everything. Every day is a new adventure. You're still learning your house. Even if your house was just built, like you're still learning
like
the
people
ins,
think,
the outs.
Right, that's another thing. People think, I'm just going to buy a brand new house. It was
or
still,
build a house.
So think of it this way. Someone still built that house, right? People make mistakes. You know what I mean? We had a friend that, he doesn't live too far from us. They built the house brand new. Like, no one's ever lived in the house. He built it from scratch. Within 1 year, he had to fix his foundation. So it's not always buy a new house. You know what I mean? Because shit happens. Honestly, the realtor told us that she only buys older houses because the structure is always a lot better.
They're built with better quality.
Right. But, I mean, personally, that's not me. Our house isn't that old. Our house is not even 20 years old. But
it's still something to consider.
Right.
Find your
but
preference.
it's not always go out and buy a new house, a brand new house.
A brand new house, or build a house from the ground up. Like, even if you're building your house from the ground up, you still want to make sure that your foundation is secure, because your foundation can sink in a couple years. A lot of people don't know that.
Well, it's supposed to sink. So that's what foundations do. They settle, right? So they're in the ground, and that's what people mean by the house is settling, right? So the foundation does obviously get deeper, and then the moisture that is inside of the dirt that's holding in your foundation obviously is more pressure, right? So through the rain and all the different elements that happen throughout the seasons, pushing that foundation.
Right.
So, and I'm talking like I know shit, but I literally, if you ask her,
like, we're learning as we go.
Once I don't know something, I will research that shit for months.
And it's like, once people bring that up to you, then you
right.
look like,
but
we had a random
obsessive.
neighbor just tell us. So we had the neighbor tell us just some random shit about the houses sinking. So I took that very literal. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, our house is gonna sink? Like, what the fuck? Like, and then he did like the research, and he just kind of figured what the neighbor was trying to say. Someone else wrote to try every little thing to make sure they work before you sign that contract. So this is something our realtor also told us. She was like, yo, if you gotta flip the switch 4 or 5 times, and all of them, every time we come to do a walkthrough or whatever, do it, because you just never know. You want to know what's wrong with the house before you sign that contract, because once you sign that contract, that is for you. That is your problem now. Like, you don't want to go into a house with electricity problems. You don't want to go into a house with plumbing problems. So if you're in a house, flush them toilets, open them sinks up, run the water, see what's going on, see if the water's flowing. If it's not, why isn't it flowing? Like, is it because the water thing is off, or like, what's going on? Yeah. You want to do all of that.
Yeah. And I think the contract she's referring to is a contract from you and the seller, basically agreeing that you are purchasing the property. After a certain date, you cannot back out of that contract
unless
this is my
it doesn't fall through.
fourth cup of Henny, so I can't think of the name of the contract, but you can ask her. I had it in my head.
You drinking straight?
Now it's straight. Yeah, it's straight.
Okay.
Yeah. No more fancy shit for y'all. But yeah, you can't back out of the contract. Obviously, there's a clause in there. Unless the stipulations of whatever the seller told you, or financing doesn't go through, or something like that, right? So you can't just back out, because you already put the earnest money up.
You will lose your
deposit, earnest money, same thing. But yeah, what else?
Let me see what else people were writing. The little things add up.
I mean, for the most part, that's it.
Cracks. Not the cracks. The house noises. That was new for me. I didn't know.
That's the settling part I was just talking about.
Well, I didn't know that the house, like your house makes noise. Like I've lived in a building all my life. Like if I'm hearing noises because somebody is
Project,
like walk.
bitch.
I had Project Heat, but I wasn't in the projects.
She ain't hear no noises in them buildings because them shits is bricked up.
I don't know, but once we got
projects.
into the house, like they was like, yo, just make sure you get accustomed to the noises that your house makes. And I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? The house is gonna be talking and shit. And it's like, no, like if there's a tree up against your house, it's gonna be scratching when it's windy and stuff like that. I don't know, just yeah, like as the house is settling, you'll hear like little cracks and shit. Like that's how like you settle in. Like that was new to me. I never heard of that before. You heard of that? Yeah, well, you lived in houses before.
Yeah, I lived in houses, but we was broke.
Like renting houses.
Yeah,
it's pretty much. I mean, it's not the
we
same.
Rented
thing,
houses. But... we own houses. You name it. But
I've always lived in a building. Boogie down, baby.
But yeah, I mean that's basically it. Well, I guess the moral,
the importance of DIY.
The moral of everything is buying a house is not.
It's not hard.
It's not hard
if you set your mind to it.
So.
Pretty much covered the major things.
Yeah, and I'm on my 4th cup too. So.
Right. So we're gonna end it right here, you guys. If you guys like this video, go ahead, thumbs it up. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow your girl at Smacktalkdanii. And if you guys have any more questions on homeowners or like the process of it, or to refer you who we worked with when we was in our process, go ahead and DM me. Send me an email, smacktalkdanii@gmail.com. Don't forget to listen to my podcast on Spotify. Follow me on Twitter. And you know the deal. Do what you gotta do. All right, guys. Salud.
Oh, it's like a quarter left. It's not really a shot. Don't judge me.
Thank you for tuning. Thank you for being my special guest. This video was not sponsored by anybody, but if y'all want to sponsor it, you're more than welcome to, baby. Let's get this money. All right, guys. Bye.